Hi everyone, my name is Megan and I work on the marketing team at PC Nametag, and today I'm here with...
Hi, my name is Kat and I work on the marketing team at Eventeny, and today we're going to be talking all about securing sponsors for your event. So excited to chat about this. I think it's one of my favorite topics in the event industry.
Me as well. And I know when you're new to event planning, sometimes figuring out how to secure sponsors can be kind of a scary thing to do. So hopefully we'll give you all some tips today that you can take back to your events, whether you are brand new to putting together events or you're an experienced event organizer. So I thought we could talk about first, what are event sponsorships? If you're new, we can kind of cover the basics. So I think this is one thing that's kind of often overlooked with event planning, is finding sponsors and utilizing them to their fullest potential. Sometimes, ticket sales for events don't always completely cover all the expenses. So being able to lean on sponsors is a nice way to defray costs and also build great relationships with organizations that want to support your event.
Yes, absolutely. And I think securing sponsors is also really crucial to the attendee experience, because when you're an event planner, the number one thing is the experience your attendees have, because word of mouth marketing from attendees is going to be the thing that, drives your event to success year over year. And sponsors can be really, really instrumental in helping you create a really good time for your attendees and really make your event super cohesive.
When people think of event sponsors, they just think of an organization donating money towards something. But I wanted to cover that sponsors could be a person, they could be a company, they could be an organization, but they can support your event financially. They can provide products, they can provide services. So you can kind of get a little bit creative with how sponsors support your event. So in exchange for giving product, services, financial support, they get promotional benefits out of your event. So there's a lot of different reasons why you might want to look into having sponsors. One of the biggest one is you get funding for your event, or you get support through products and services, but then your sponsors get visibility out of the partnership. So it's kind of like a nice give and take partnership together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the main things to consider when you're researching sponsors for your event, especially in the early stages, is remembering to keep an open mind, because like you mentioned, sponsorships can be financial, but they can mean a lot of other things as well. And we all know that planning events is so many different moving parts, a lot of different things to juggle at once. And while a sponsor, especially if it's like a smaller local business, might not be able to give you, the level of financial support that you might be looking for, they can donate products, they can donate their time. Like, there's a lot of things that companies can do to support your event beyond just financial. So I think that that's really important to consider as well.
I know at PC Nametag, we've done in-kind sponsorships. So for example, an event might need help with their event badges. So we provide the event badges and the lanyards in exchange for a sponsorship tier that they have. So that's a nice way to get on their social media, get in front of their audiences, introduce PC Nametag to their attendees. So that's an example of how we've donated products to an event in exchange for a sponsorship tier.
Yes, exactly. And at Eventeny, we do something similar. We're a software solution. So we don't have a physical product, but something that we will often do is offer our software in kind, especially to like event management conferences, things that events that have our target audience. And that's another thing to keep in mind, is when you're looking for sponsors, you want to look at businesses that are going to have a similar target audience to your attendee demographic. So at Eventeny, we sponsor a lot of event management focused conferences because our target audience is event organizers. So if you're hosting, a children's festival, then maybe reach out to like preschools or children's clothing stores, things like that. Because the most important thing for a sponsor is that they're going to see a return on their investment through brand exposure. So you want to make sure that your attendee makeup is going to be something that aligns with their target audience, and that'll make your event much more lucrative.
I think there's so many different reasons why you would want to lean into sponsors. So for example, you can offset costs. One big thing is to make your event more trustworthy. If people see that you are partnering with local brands and or bigger organizations, they're going to see that your event is worth going to. And also, like Kat mentioned, improving the attendee experience. So let's say that you have a happy hour and you offer that as a sponsorship opportunity. That's a great way to give attendees a fun experience that they can enjoy at your event while having that covered by a local sponsor.
On improving the attendee experience, something else that we will usually do is donate branded items for swag bags. So a lot of events will have VIP tickets and offer little bags with fun items in it for the attendees. And so offering that as a sponsor opportunity where companies can just send their branded items to you for you to include, like portable chargers or hand sanitizers or anything, is a really great way for you to create a little gift bag, something that the attendees can take home with them to remember your event by. And it also is a great way for companies to get their branding out there. And another thing that I was thinking about is one of the most important parts from a business perspective in terms of sponsoring an event is creating that trust. We call it trust signaling on the marketing team at Eventeny. When you get sponsored by a prominent local business, that shows the community that your event is a legitimate, trustworthy event that people can go to. And that really goes a long way, especially if this is the first year you've ran the event. This goes a long way in convincing ticket buyers to, take that step and actually purchase tickets to your event and actually attend versus, if you don't have sponsors and you don't have that, trust signal from different businesses in your area. And I think, we both work in marketing and, there are so many different channels of marketing. It feels like now you have digital, physical, all these different ways. In my opinion, the most effective form of marketing, and this has been since marketing existed, I think, is the bandwagon effect and word of mouth marketing. Like nothing is ever going to beat that. And securing prominent sponsors really goes a long way in creating that buzz around your event that you really need to be successful.
You really want attendees getting excited about your brand. Mm-hmm. So if you're leaning into that word of mouth marketing, that can really go a far way for your brand's reputation. One thing I wanted to talk about with you, Kat, is within sponsorship packages, you can have custom sponsorship opportunities and then predefined tiers. So for example, within a sponsorship package, you might have a bronze level, a silver, a gold, and a platinum, let's say. So that would be an example of a predefined tier, and each one would have additional benefits building on the last one. And then also you could have custom sponsorship opportunities. So this might look like an a la carte menu or maybe like an in-kind trade, something that you kind of work with the event organizer to predefine. Putting together custom ones are really cool because you can really tailor the package to the sponsor's needs. You can really maximize revenue and you can offer flexibility, which I know some sponsors might look for, especially if maybe they aren't able to afford the bronze level. Maybe they can work out something else with you. So that's cool. But with custom sponsor packages, sometimes it could take a little bit more time and effort since it is custom. And then it could have potential for a little bit of inconsistency since everything is different. So I was wondering if you had any takes on custom sponsor packages.
I do think that it's important to distinguish when you're making your sponsorship package between things that are a more physical sponsorship. And by that, I mean, you're sponsoring a bar or you're sponsoring this specific activity. And that has financial ties because obviously if you want, let's say I want PC Name Tag to sponsor the bar at my event, that bar is going to cost X amount of money. So I need the sponsorship to bring in that amount of money versus things that are a little more loosey-goosey and you can play around with a little bit, things like signage at your event. Honestly, signage at the event is one of the most lucrative sponsorship opportunities you can offer because it's going to cost you almost nothing to throw somebody's logo up on like a step and repeat or on, attendee barricade, something like that. But for especially a local business who's trying to gain awareness with the community, something like that could be potentially huge. So It's important to know your sponsorship audience and then pitch according to whatever the business is that you're trying to secure as a sponsor. So if you're going for a local business, maybe custom would be more suited to their needs because like you mentioned, they might not have the financial means to pay for, a happy hour, but they still want to generate that brand awareness in the community. So offering things like signage or an in-kind partnership where they can provide some of their products for the event can be huge and really mutually beneficial. Now, if you're trying to pitch, bigger fish or larger businesses in your community, or even corporate businesses, if you have a larger event, that's when the more defined sponsorship tiers come into play, that like gold, silver, and bronze, those like $50,000, $100,000 sponsorships. That's kind of when you get into that realm. Regardless, though, I think it's really important to stay flexible, because the end goal is always going to be to get a sponsor, is to get something for your event. And to do that, you have to, work with people, and you have to, see what the company's needs are and figure out how you can create something that's mutually beneficial for both of you. So even if you do create a tiered sponsorship plan, don't be afraid to mix and match a little bit. I negotiate a ton of sponsorships on behalf of Eventeny for different conferences and events. And I would say 6 times out of 10, even if there is a tiered sponsorship package, especially if it's an event that we're familiar with, we'll end up kind of crafting something outside of the like very rigid options that we're given. Something that we've done a lot in the past is puppy parties. So at a conference, we'll partner with a local animal shelter and bring in like literal puppies for the attendees to play in for an hour. And it costs us like maybe a couple $1,000s to do that, and attendees love it. So it's a win-win for us, because we get our branding on everything. We can like put little cute collars on them with our logo on it, and we get to donate to an animal shelter. It's a win for the animal shelter because they're getting a couple $1,000s for 2 hours of work. And it's a win for the conference because attendees love it, and they post it all over their social media, and people talk about it for like days after the event. That's not something that has ever been included on a sponsorship package of a conference that we've gone to. But, the conferences that have been open to it, when we've suggested it, have seen a lot of success from it.
I like the concept of being able to tie your brand with a nonprofit or a charity or something that's related to a good cause, because it's goodwill for your brand as well. So not only are you getting that activity covered, you're also getting great brand reputation for having your brand associated with that fun event. So I like that you've been able to offer that. And that also reminds me, PC Name Tag is a sponsor of this online charity event called Zeldathon. It happens every year. It's like a video game themed charity event that happens online. So we're providing the event badges this year, but they have a sponsorship package that I thought was really cool. So they have different tiers that you can, use to support the event, but they also have an a la carte menu. So it's something that you can take to your event. So maybe you aren't able to meet that tier 1 or 2 tier 2 or tier 3 sponsorship level, but maybe you want to look into product placement. That's an example of something on the a la carte menu. Or you could have a charitable donation matching, or you can be a major segment sponsor. So you can say, powered by PC Name Tag. So I think there's ways that you can offer a little bit of something to everyone. So I think the whole point is to get people interested in sponsoring in some way. So if you can grab them in some way, even if it's not them adhering to the specific tiers, I think that's a good opportunity to get people involved.
Yes, definitely. I think the main thing is accessibility. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to give you money if you're an event planner. And that's like really the crux of the situation. Like, you don't want to make it complicated for people to sponsor your event. You want to work with people and, meet in the middle somewhere and find something that works for you, your sponsor, and your attendees. And to do that, you have to make your sponsorships accessible to, companies of all different sizes and demographics.
A big thing for event planners is making sure that your sponsors feel valued, and hopefully that they'll want to come back year over year. So that's one thing I wanted to cover in our video today, is how to create a feeling of value and appreciation with your sponsors. So I thought we could talk about a few ways that you can help make your sponsors want to come back year over year. So I can start. One thing that I would recommend from PC Name Tag's perspective is make sure that you put their branding everywhere. Kat talked about this earlier in the video, so that was awesome. But I think there's a lot of different places that you can put their branding. So you can put it on signage, you can put it on digital signage, you can put it in the keynote presentation, you can put it on badges, lanyards. So I think it's a really good idea to just like scream from the mountaintops that this person is a sponsor and we love having them here. So I think it's not just enough to just put a logo on the website and call it a day. I think there's a lot of really unique ways that you can get people's branding out in front of attendees.
Another way to, really show sponsors that they're valued is by understanding the reason why they're sponsoring your event. So from the perspective of a business sponsoring an event, part of it is to be nice. We like the event we want to sponsor, but mainly it's, about the bottom line, right? It's about the ROI. We are trying to get a return on our investment by getting future customers from this event. And so one of the main ways that you can help a sponsor achieve their ROI in a way that's, not financially significant is by providing some kind of like booth space. So if you're at a conference, comping a booth space for a sponsor, I know conferences who sell booth spaces for $5,000. I don't think it really costs $5,000 to set up a table and folding chairs, but you can, tell a sponsor, we're comping your booth space. This is a $3,500 value, a $5,000 value. It's not actually going to cost you that much money to do that, but it's going to make a huge difference for the sponsor, and it's going to get them that much closer to achieving that bottom line. And even at like a festival or something like that, offering sponsors the chance to set up a booth in the vendor area and have a couple reps there to explain their product, especially if it's like a product that directly ties in with your attendee demographic. That's something that's not going to cost you a ton of money to do, but it's going to make all the difference for the sponsor and really help them feel valued because they know that you understand their side of the whole situation.
I like that you touched on perceived value. So if I were a sponsor and I said, oh, wow, I get a $5,000 booth space, I get 2 free tickets to send people from my organization to the event, that seems like a big win for us. So that's a great way to make your sponsors feel valued and want to come to your event. And that's a great segue into my next tip that I have is utilize your social media. That's not something that costs extra money most of the time. But I know in the past when PC Name Tag has been sponsors for events, we love when event organizers tag us on social. They go live and talk about our badges and our lanyards that we sponsored for the event. It doesn't take a lot of extra effort, but having that additional visibility is really nice for your sponsors. And it just takes a little bit of extra effort to create a TikTok, go live on Instagram, and get really creative with it.
Yeah, absolutely. On the social media side, something that we've done a couple times in the past is like a little social media takeover on like an Instagram story or something.
That's a great idea.
That requires like really almost no effort on the part of the event organizer. You can tell your sponsor, take a couple videos, at the event talking about your brand and talking about why you're excited to be here. And then we'll go ahead and post them on our Instagram story. That, takes 30 seconds. Most of the work is on the sponsor, honestly, to take the video and send it over. All you have to do is hit post. But that's a great way to make sponsors feel valued. We love when conferences do stuff like that with us because it's a great way to get in front of, an audience that we wouldn't normally have access to.
Mm-hmm. And that's free content for you. So the more user-generated content that you can get, not just from your sponsors, but also from your attendees having a really great time at your event, saves you time, and you can utilize that content for next year's event marketing. So
absolutely.
I think the last one that I would recommend for making your event sponsors feel valued is to give all of your sponsors the same level of appreciation. So let's say you have a sponsor that's a gold level sponsor and then someone who's a bronze level sponsor. Just because there are different levels of support doesn't mean that there's a difference between the two. So I think one way to make everyone feel valued is to show your appreciation, maintain that communication with them, tell them how thankful you are that they have supported your event, and hopefully they'll appreciate that effort and come back next year.
Yeah, definitely. I know I always love it when I get an email after the event, thank you to all of our sponsors. And it doesn't even have to be personalized, honestly. If you just want to BCC all of your sponsors, just like, thank you so much for sponsoring our event. We hope to see you next year. Like, we had a great time. That goes so far, just that personalized communication. I think, especially in the events industry, everything is very personal and everything is, about the attendee experience and creating this great time and these great vibes for everybody involved. And so making, that effort to have a communication between your sponsors, even after the event, is huge. I know we go through, every quarter and see what events we're going to sponsor. And the ones who have emailed me just like a little checkup or, like, hey, just checking in, the event's in 8 months. How are you feeling? Those are usually at the top of my list because they're in my inbox. I've seen them. I feel like I know the person well, or at least better than other events who, don't make the effort to do that type of communication. So it's the little things like that really go a long way, I think.
Let's say that you are an event organizer and you're new to creating event sponsorship packages. What advice would we give event organizers and how to create like a really effective event sponsorship package? The biggest thing that I would recommend to event organizers is to just get really creative with the different benefits that you can offer sponsors, so they don't always have to be things that cost you money. So I'll give you a few examples that you can incorporate in your event sponsorship package. So you can do increased exposure at your event. So let's say you're going to have local press there, or maybe there's an industry podcast that's doing a live episode recording there. That's a great way for you to get that sponsor in front of additional audience members. You can also include your sponsors in event photography. So if that's something that they really value and they want that professional photography, they can be at your event and be on video and help build their professional marketing portfolio. And then the last thing Kat touched on is another great benefit that you can offer to sponsors is partnering with a nonprofit. So that's a great way for them to demonstrate their social responsibility while also giving your attendees a fun activity that they can engage with.
I think my advice for new event planners looking for sponsors would go back to what I said earlier about understanding demographics. So like I mentioned, it's really important to choose potential sponsors that have a similar demographic makeup of what your attendees are going to be. And that kind of goes into when you're crafting your sponsorship package. It's important to make it easy for sponsors to say yes. Like, you are pitching your event to sponsors, but instead of pitching why your event is, super fun and, it's like you're asking for sponsorships, you need to be telling them why they want to sponsor your event. And the way that you do that is through attendee data. And if it's, an event that's a couple years old, maybe showing testimonials from sponsors in the past, you need to show sponsors what the benefits are to your event before you ask them for money, because it'll be so much easier for them to say yes if they can, see, okay, this is the attendee makeup. This is really similar to my target audience. This is a great opportunity for me to get brand awareness. And when you have that data and those statistics in your package, most of the time sponsorship decisions are made by a team. So that can make it really easy for your point of contact to take back to their team and, pitch your event to the rest of their company. So I think it's really important to create your sponsorship package with the business in mind that you're trying to sponsor, and think, put yourself on the other end of the table. If I was a business trying to sponsor an event, what would I want to see that would make me say yes? Because you really want to make it easy. You don't want to make it super complicated and, super bogged down with unnecessary information. Just get right to the point, have, relevant data included, and make businesses want to sponsor you because they think it will be beneficial for them. On that topic, I was just at an event recently in Michigan, which has not a huge wine scene, but like a little vineyard scene on the coast of Lake Michigan. And I was at a Sandcastle event on the coast of Lake Michigan, and all of their wine was sponsored by a local winery that was like, a couple miles down the road. And I don't know the details of this sponsorship because I was just at this event, but when you're in the industry, you kind of clock those things pretty quickly. And wine is expensive for an event. Anybody who's thrown an event before knows how expensive drinks and beverages are. And if you can partner with a winery and they'll provide the drinks and they have their logo on all of the bottles and all of the glasses, like, that is a great way to have sort of like a win-win sponsorship. And actually, me and my family scheduled a tasting at that vineyard for like a couple weeks later because we liked the wine and it was super close. We thought, might as well. And so that's a great example of, one of those in-kind partnerships where you might not necessarily be getting financial support, but you're getting products covered that normally would be very expensive. And that's, going to help your bottom line just as much as a check would.
And maybe now you're a brand enthusiast of that wine brand, and you never would have tried it if you hadn't have been to the event. So
yeah, exactly.
It's like a small world.
time. Yeah, the sponsorship pipeline in real time.
So one thing that PC Name Tag and Eventeny have created together, which is really cool, we're very excited to share it with you all, is an event sponsorship package template. So Kat, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the different things within our free template that we have and how event organizers can use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, really excited to share this resource. It's been very meticulously made by Eventeny and PC Name Tag. And one of the main things when we were creating it that we wanted to make sure to do is create the resource from the perspective of a potential sponsor as well as the perspective from an event. So we have, the benefit of being on both sides of this industry. So myself and Megan, we both have sponsored events, and we also work in the events industry and have been on the attendee side. We've also been on, the event organizer side. So we put all of these different perspectives into the sponsorship proposal and made it very editable in a way that you can tailor it exactly to your event. And we did that in a few ways through having different options for sponsorship tiers. So we have a template for a la carte options. We have a template for predefined sponsorship opportunities. We have a template for, pick and choose as you go options. We also wanted to make sure that it was accessible to everybody. So we have several different formats that it's available in. We have Canva, Illustrator, EPS. So we really just wanted to make the best resource possible for everybody and make it easy for you guys to access and edit it, and use our knowledge from all of our sides of the industry to really put something together that will help you guys be successful.
If you're interested in accessing this resource, we will provide it for you that you can check it out. And also just wanted to give a quick shout out to PC Name Tag's blog and Eventeny's blog. If you're new to the events industry or you want to learn more about event sponsorships, both of our companies have really great resources on our blog. So definitely recommend checking that out if you're looking to learn more.
A lot about event sponsorships, but I think that this is a topic that's not talked about as much in the event industry as you would think. So I'm glad we've been able to put together all of this content for people, and I think everyone will find it pretty helpful.
What are your best tips for engaging sponsors, finding sponsors, making sure that they feel valued and get the most out of their experience at your event? Let us know. We'd love to learn about your experience and your recommendations and advice. So leave a comment and let us know.